Hey everybody, thanks for joining us back out here at the Range Report. As you can see from the skies behind me, the rain is coming down, so we decided to pack away the guns for a little while and just have a brief conversation with you guys to talk about some of the current events that have been happening in the world as of late. Now, today is October 7th, and within the last week, there were two separate instances that really caught my attention. The first of which was in France. Some madman with an edged weapon, whether it was a knife or something else, we're not sure yet, decided that he was going to commit a heinous act, make some sort of a statement. He decided he was going to go into a police station and kill 4 police officers. Well, he probably intended on killing more, but he was taken down before he could get the opportunity to do so. A police station. He killed 4 cops inside of a French police station. Now, when I read that headline, it was taken back a little bit, as the one place that I would least expect there to be that kind of a crime would be a police station, considering the fact that the majority of the people who you're going to find in one of these places is going to be, at least you would hope, would be armed and well trained. But this guy managed to kill 4 uniformed armed officers before being taken down. And then, not 48 hours later, is a story that comes out of my hometown in New York City. 4 more people lost their lives. This time, some lunatic with a steel pipe decided that he was going to target a bunch of sleeping homeless people, killing 4 of them and severely injuring a 5th before he was taken down. And I just couldn't help but wonder, where is Moms Demand Action? Where is Everytown For Gun Safety? Where is March for Our Lives? You know, David Hogg has been silent on these 8 people losing their lives. Shannon Watts hasn't had a word to say about these 8 people losing their lives. Mike Bloomberg, he hasn't said a goddamn thing about these 8 people losing their lives, 4 of whom lost their lives in a city that he once represented as mayor. I gotta ask why. Don't the lives of these 4 police officers matter? Don't the lives of those 4 homeless people matter? Doesn't anybody give a damn about what happens to these people? Or is it they just care when somebody's life is lost because somebody decides to use a firearm? Is that the only criteria that anybody gives a shit anymore about, as to whether or not somebody used a firearm? I mean, you could run over a dozen people with a truck and nobody's going to care. I mean, yeah, it's going to make the news, but you're not going to have your protests out there calling for truck registrations. You're not going to have people saying, well, if it's a Super Duty, we got to ban it. You know, it's got a high-capacity gas tank, we got to ban it. You know, those tires are a little too big, we got to ban it. We don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have any calls for anything being confiscated, banned, made illegal, unless it's a firearm. We also don't have calls for things being taken away from non-criminals unless it's a firearm. I mean, you can have all the chemicals you want underneath your kitchen sink mixed in any sort of combination to make a lovely cocktail that would cause a lot more damage than a 30-round magazine and an AR-15. You know, a gallon of bleach and a gallon of ammonia. That's a pretty potent combination right there. But they're still on sale at every grocery store in America. We don't have any calls for that. The only thing anybody ever calls for banning or made illegal or more difficult to obtain is the firearm. It's also worth noting that it's the only one of our, only one of our rights in the Bill of Rights that says shall not be infringed, but it is the one that is most commonly infringed upon. Don't necessarily know how that happened either, but it does. But I digress. I just want to know where the protests are. Where are the marches? Where are the little public service announcements being put out by these people calling for a ban on steel pipes, calling for a ban on knives and machetes and all the rest of that? I mean, if we could only make murder illegal, I mean, then we could solve all of these problems all in one fell swoop. Just make, you're not allowed to kill people. That's rule number one. You're not allowed to kill. That's right. I remember this list of commandments, and that was pretty up close to the top. But still, we don't hear anything from, Everytown, USA. We don't hear from moms. We don't hear from the march. Don't the mothers of the 4 homeless people that had their brains splattered, don't their mothers give a damn about what happened to them? I'm sure those cops in France, I'm sure their mothers cared. I'm sure their lives mattered. I'm sure they lived in some sort of town, someplace where people want to be safe and they want to be kept from harm. But you're not going to hear a damn thing from any one of these anti-gun groups so long as the murders that were committed were not committed with a firearm being used as the tool to commit that crime. And you got to ask, why is that? Is it because they care more about banning the firearm than they do the lives lost? Or do they care more about the money they raise from like-minded individuals or people who've been misled by the media and by Hollywood? People who don't necessarily understand the narrative. They don't seem to understand that just because they don't have a firearm, that there may come a day when they might want one. I don't know. I just don't know where these protests are. I don't know where the rallies are. I don't know where everybody is lighting candles and having, vigils and crying that these lives were lost. I don't see it. I don't see the litany of media coverage over it. I see a couple of reports in the local paper, a couple of reports from my local TV station, but I don't see anything on the nationwide news, the mainstream media, where these things are being reported. Well, they'll probably be reported once, and everybody will go, oh, what a shame. But because there's no firearm involved, the story ends right there. It doesn't fit the narrative. Now, as guilty as these people are for not giving a damn about the lives of these people that are killed with means other than a firearm, the Second Amendment community has really got to step up to bat. Otherwise, we're just as culpable. We have to ask them. We have to drive that part of the narrative. Why don't you care? Why doesn't it make a difference to you? Why don't their lives matter just as much as some people in a nightclub? Why don't their lives matter as much as children in a school? Why don't their lives matter as much as people at a concert or in a movie theater or in any of the other places where some lunatic decided that he was going to use a firearm and kill a bunch of people? Why don't those lives matter? Because there's nothing to gain from it. That's why. That's the answer. We all know it's true, but it's the answer that we're never going to get. But it's the answer we also are not going to be able to let the people understand, because we're not asking them that question. We're not forcing the issue on these other groups to say, what are you doing to curb violence? Because there is no such thing as gun violence. There's no such thing as fist violence. There's no such thing as any kind of violence. Violence is violence. Murder is murder, regardless of what the tool is. Okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody bludgeons you to death with a shovel or a pickaxe or a shotgun. You're still dead. It doesn't matter. Violence is violence. Gun violence is the only time that the word violence is prefaced with another word is when you put gun in front of it. And that's the only time that any of these organizations give a flying crap about it, because they know they could raise money from it. That's the root of it. I mean, that's when you really get down to it. It's money, it's power, it's control. Because at some point they believe that if they disarm the American citizenry, that they're going to be in charge of the only people with firearms, the police and the military. That's where they want to go with it. They want the civilian population to be completely disarmed so they can control the only groups that have the firearms, and then that's it. That's where it ultimately is going. Let's cut all the bullshit out of the way. That's where it's going. That's the goal. That's the main objective. And people say, well, that's not true. We just want to institute red flag laws so that we can take these firearms out of the hands of people that may be a danger. Well, you know who else had a red flag on him? The guy with the steel pipe who killed those 4 people in New York City. The man has been arrested 7 times in the last 2 years. 6 counts of assault. Each of them with some sort of a weapon. His own mother just gave an interview that said she was deathly afraid of him. Said he was dangerous. Law enforcement didn't take a pipe from him. Law enforcement didn't take anything from him. Hell, law enforcement couldn't keep him locked up behind bars. But they're going to come to your house or they're going to come to mine and say, we want your guns. We think you're a danger. We're not a danger. We're law-abiding Americans. We love our freedom. We love our country. We love our families. We love our friends, our neighborhoods, our communities. We love our nation. This is who we are. The firearm is ingrained into our very DNA. From the day of our country's inception, the firearm has been there. Not only hanging over the mantle as a means of putting food on the table, but as being a representation of guaranteed freedom so that we could stand up against the tyrannical government, whether it was our own or enemies from another part of the world. The firearm is ingrained with us. So the only reason they would want to get rid of the firearm is because they intend on doing something to us that we would not allow. We wouldn't allow it. So they want to take the means of defending against it. Clear and cut. That's the whole, and in a nutshell, that's everything right there. They want to come for your guns, they want to come for mine. But when the lives of other innocent people are lost, doesn't even make a blip on their radar. They could not care any less. They could not care any less. So what are we going to do? You know, they keep saying that, and I heard Bloomberg say it just a little while ago in an interview I was watching about Dick's Sporting Goods destroying $5 million worth of assault weapons, was that, you know, you don't let a crisis go to waste. Well, why don't we pay a little honor to the memories of the 8 people that were killed by weapons other than a firearm just in the last few days, and demand that all of these groups who want to disarm us address those lives and address how their policies would have kept those people alive, how their policies would ensure that those people would have got home to their families, or that those 4 people that were sleeping in cardboard boxes may have had a better life if their policies were enacted. How? How are they going to do it? There won't be an answer. Because like I said, those lives to them, worthless. Worthless. Empty. They meant absolutely nothing, and will continue to mean nothing. They should mean something to us. Because who knows? Maybe in New York City, if the average citizen was allowed to carry a firearm, unless, you know, because the only people who can get a carry permit in New York City are the ultra-rich, ultra-famous, politicians, newscasters, Alec Baldwin, or anybody else who appears on Saturday Night Live. Those people can get a firearm permit because they're notable. The average citizen can't do it. It's, believe me, I know from experience. I actually had one years ago as related to my employment. But if the average American citizen in New York City was able to have a firearm, maybe, who knows? Maybe they would have saw that, somebody with a firearm would have saw that guy swinging that pipe, killing those people, and put a stop to it. Instead of waiting for him to just stop of his own volition. Stop because he got tired. Maybe our policies would have been the ones that would have saved lives. Because disarming the public sure as hell didn't. Well, it's something to think about. I appreciate you guys coming back here for the range report so you can get a little bit of my ranting. Like I said, really appreciate you guys coming by. If you hit the like, the subscribe, leave a comment below. We really appreciate it. Remember to visit us at our website at the libertyfirstfoundation.com or l1f.us. Great articles, great reviews. Going to have a lot of interesting things coming up in the near future, so make sure you check with us every now and then. And who knows, you might actually get to hear me, rant off a little bit more every now and then. I would say excuse the language, but if you're carrying a gun, I'm pretty sure you can handle a couple of 4-letter words. You guys be safe, shoot straight.
Politicians take from you and me the very liberties that set us free. So stand, open fire.